Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with what could potentially be called a follow-up video. Now, in a previous project I covered, what do I call it, a laundry detergent pod box as part of the Fresh Knit Up theme for Makers Mixed Media Art and Artist Group. I'll put the link to both of those videos below. I would say the project we're about to do today relates to part one, but feel free to watch part one and part two. They're entertaining and hopefully there's something in there you can take away from it. Now, as part of that project, we ended up with this as surplus. This was my cleanup sheet in the project. And I did say I might pop back and do something with it, and we're going to do it now. And then I ended up with this piece. This is what I covered the boxes with, although, oh, look how cute that is. I matched that up almost perfectly. And I didn't realize at the time, but I ended up with a piece that's 12 inches by 8.5 inches, and I can make a journal cover out of that. So I thought, right, I'm going to finish these pieces off. Now, the aim of this video is to do some doodling. I haven't done doodling for a while on video, probably because the first time I did it, I got a little bit overwhelmed by it, but since then I've practiced and worked a little bit, and I think I'm a bit more prepared to do it on screen now. This one will get added detail to it, but I won't be doodling this one on screen. I will, however, finish this one as a doodle on screen, purely because if I do both of them, it's going to take far too long, but as I've got the paint out, I'll use them for both. So what am I going to be using? Let's put that up the way. Now, I designed this stencil last year for PM Artist Studio. Yes, there will be a link below. I'm just going to put a link to all of the products I've designed for them, just in case there's something else that inspires you when you're flicking through it. I will put a link also to this specific one, I believe, in my own website. If you go and see it there, if you click, it will take you back through to PM Artist Studio anyway. I only designed it to be in one size, which is 9 by 12, and this is the size it is. And it could be used as a complete stencil, although I designed it so that you could take out elements of it, like that down the side of a piece, this in a corner, that in a corner. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to use it to pull some of the elements out of it. Okay, now, first is, sorry, I just want to make sure there was no square missing from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with some colours, and I'm going to sponge through this onto my painted backgrounds, and then once they're dry, because I have to let them dry, I'm going to come in with markers and maybe some Posca paint pens, and then give them a bit more detail with some doodling and see how we get on with that. Now, the colours I'm going to be using is, I've decided I'm going to use some white. There's already white in this one, and this one's already quite pale. But when I put white in, if I outline it in black, it will stand out a lot. Let's move those out of your screen. So I'm using white. I've got this little bit left in here. That's purely because I need to use this one up. I do have this pink shimmer, which I'll squeeze it, will it come to the top? Let's see if I can knock it up to the top for you so you can see it. Now, if it's a pot that's got no label on it, or bottle with no label, there you go. It's that sort of colour. It means it's a bottle that I've emptied other bottles into when they're becoming empty. So it's just a made up colour. Please don't think I can tell you the brand. I can't. This is another one that's a pot that's got several different things in it. And what I do is, as I run lower on say we're using purple. So say I was running low on a purple or a lavender, I'd squeeze it into this bottle and give it a good shake. If I was using a red and I was running out of red, I put the red in here as well, because red is part of purple. If I had, say, a deep blue and I only had a bit of it left, I put it in here because blue and red make purple. So that's sort of how these bottles are generated. As you can see, I've written plum purple because to me that is a plum purple colour. I also have a mixed pot of green here, which is a fairly limeish sort of kiwi sort of greenish colour. I've also pulled in some gold, and I'm not sure what I'm going to be using in total from them, but I'm going to be using bits of them. Let's just put it this way. Right, let's clear these decks just a little bit so I don't don't have stuff all over the place. So I think, first of all, I want to start with putting the leaves in. Now, in my mind, I thought leaves would look nice either on the inside or the outside of that. And when I designed these, I did design them in a curve. So it does mean I can actually work my way around. Now, to make sure I don't go over onto these edges, I'm just going to pull out some washi tape. It's a good way to use up your spare washi tape. If I can get the end started. This one's nearly out now. No worries, Ceri has a lot of washi tape. I seem to be a little bit obsessed with washi tape. So I'm just going to use pieces of washi tape just to block off areas so I don't over... Oh, there you go. That's the end of that roll. So I don't inadvertently go over the edges onto this. Now, we'll be using those sections later, but I might use them for another area. So I'm going to come in first of all, and I'm going to put on some green. Now, let's see. I've got my ceramic tile here. You probably will have seen my ceramic tile before. It's a big, well, it's a big ceramic tile. I got it in the reduced style in my hardware store. And for me, it's my paint palette. Well, it's many things actually, but mainly a paint palette purely because I can clean it off afterwards and it wipes off beautifully. So there's my green paint, and this little jar is full of packing sponges. And it's just sponge that came, to be honest with you, we had a new kitchen sink put in, about a year ago now. And this was the packaging the sink came in. So you know what? I grabbed it. I'm an artist. I'm going to recycle anything I can because it's free. Right, now, this is a very fluid paint, okay? It's just something I need to be aware of. The more fluid the paint when I pick it up on the sponge, the more likely it is to go through the stencil onto the paint onto the paper underneath. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I pick up a bit, and then I'm going to dab quite a lot of it off. And then when I bounce it up and down on my piece of stencil here, it's going to go through, but it's not going to work its way underneath. Now, what I did there is I bounced that area, then I used a clean area just to basically tap over the top because it gives me that sort of effect. I'm just going to do areas of this. Now, I don't mind if things go off the paper. I'd rather than get paint on the other side of my stencil. Periodically, by the way, do check the back of your stencil, because if it's got a build-up of paint on the back side, you will need to clean up your stencil by giving it a bit of a wipe. I find with the heavier bodied paints, you get coverage faster. See, I'm getting a little bit there. I'm not overly worried at that bit at the moment. Let's do one more this way because the other one curves in the opposite direction. So I'm going to do 3 in this direction and then 3 in the other direction. So I hope you're all doing well. It's absolutely freezing cold here in Wales, but I'm sure someone else out there has had snow, which we haven't as yet had. I'm going to put this to one side for 1 second while I bring this one in, because I wanted to use the same design on here. I'm just doing double duty, guys. Yeah, I've heard some people have had really heavy snowfall in the States. I don't know whether that was expected or whether that's normal, but they've had it. So hopefully you're all nice, snuggled up and nice and warm. So it's been weird weather here, I must admit. I know it is winter and I know it's supposed to be cold and wet, but it's been a different sort of cold and wet this year. It almost gets into your bones, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm finding my hands are sore where I've got so cold. Could also be my age. So let's just embrace that for what it is as well. Okay, I'm going to tap on the side, and what that does with the thinner paints, as you do this at this moment, I don't think you see it, it creates little bubbles. But if I use the flatter side and gently tap over the top, it extinguishes those bubbles. That's 3 that way. Now I'm going to leave that there, but what I am going to do is I'm going to come into the other side and just give this a little bit of a clean up, just so that I know that it's been cleaned up on the back, because I don't want it transferring anywhere else on my prints. And then I'm going to find a piece that curves in the other direction, which would be this piece here. Let's just make sure that's dry, so I'm not putting water on the back. And again, I'm going to come in with a bit of washi tape, and seal this side off so that I don't end up with the same problem I did on the other side. And I've got a few little pieces here. When I receive anything in the mail, if it happens to have washi tape on it, I usually save the little bits of washi tape and I basically tape them to my bookcase and then recycle them. Sometimes they even end up on tags. So that's a piece curving in the opposite direction now. So I'm going to bring my original piece back in. And this lot here needs something. So, and thank you guys, because I did, what did I call it? It was almost like a flip through of my keeper's box of all of the prints that I did, all of my 12 by 12 backgrounds. And in there was the first doodle page that I did, and you're all really complimentary about that, and thank you. I still haven't done anything with it, and I'm not sure I'm going to do anything with it, because it is sort of kind of marked the start of the doodling journey I wanted to go on, and I quite like it. The more I look at it, the more I like it. The must admit, when I first started out, I wasn't that enamored with it, and I think it's because I was still remembering the emotions I had when I created it, and I did get a bit overwhelmed by it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right, I'm going to leave that as that. Not that it needs to be even numbers, but I want it to be even numbers. Actually, it's not going the other way, is it? That one and that one. That was the one that went there. Well, bless my soul. I did it wrong. Never mind. That's what happens when you try and talk. Oh, look, I finished another roll of washi tape. Let's just tape that across there. I tend to, sometimes you get gift packs with these tape holders in them. I tend to actually save the tape holder when this is done, and that's what I put my washi in. So another piece of washi. Well, that would have been easier to have done that before I put it in there, wouldn't it? Right. Just making sure I'm in no danger of hitting something that I shouldn't be hitting. Am I in shot? Barely, but you'll see me. So yes, for those of you who've been asking, yes, I have been doing doodling. Not on screen, because as I said, I needed to get a little more comfortable with it before I ventured into doing it on screen again. And that was just me being a little bit apprehensive. I am quite brave when I have a go at stuff, but sometimes it just overwhelms me if I'm trying to deal with talking, creating, filming, thinking, which isn't always the easiest thing to do, all at the same time. Then sometimes you just need to not be overwhelmed, and I was a little overwhelmed at times. Right, I think I'm going to put a couple of these in here. I'm going to come to the edge of this one. I don't mind stuff going off a page. Now, because I'm using the sponge, this will dry reasonably quickly. So there's another piece I want to put anywhere. So I'm just having a bit of a thought. I think I don't need to do any more green. Right, let's just push that to the top. Now, anything that's left over here and this sponge will get used later. I'm probably going to put all this down. Then I'm going to pause you because, of course, all of that will need to dry. Now, what did I want to do next? I I wanted to use these pieces here, and I think I wanted to use them in a metallic. In fact, I do want to use them in a metallic. So, right, time for another bit of sponge. I can't believe the workman we're going to throw this out. I've got like another 3 big pieces of this. It'll take me a long time to use it up. So I'm using this iridescent precious gold by Pebeo. Oh, that's a nice bit of goopy stuff around there. Rather that didn't drop on my artwork. Again, same process as before. Now, one thing to mention about metallics. Sometimes metallics are not as opaque as you think they should be. Okay, I'm going to come in. I need to take that little piece off there. I do find some metallics are actually quite transparent, and that's not usually what I'm aiming for. Right, I think I'd like this to come in here. I don't really want it to go across any of the leaves. Where's a bit of sponge gone? There you go. So now, because this is a more heavy bodied, as you might be able to see, it's going to give me more coverage, and it's less likely to go under my stencil. But you will note I am holding it down. Now, if you find that your stencils are difficult for you to hold down, you can always tape the stencil down with washi tape. Although what I would say is the stencils I've got here are made of Yupo. And if you leave washi on them too long, sometimes the washi really likes to stick to them. I would say probably the same will happen. Oh, I'm liking that. The same would happen of a couple of instances of that. I think I want this piece as well. Right, let's get some tape on there. Sorry, what I'm trying to say is if you've got a plastic stencil, sometimes you'll find that washi tape likes to really stick to plastic, although I always thought it would come off really easily. Sometimes it doesn't. Right, so I've got this curved shape here, and I quite like that shape, and I think I'm trying to work it so I can get it into that corner. I think that works for me. Again, pick it up, dab the excess off, and work my way in through the edge. Now, you don't need to use the whole of a stencil, remember? If you've got a stencil, you can always use any stencil you've already got and just use elements from it. I mean, I happen to be using the whole stencil, not as one piece, but the elements from it, purely because I like the stencil. Why wouldn't I do it? I designed it. So, that's cool. Right, let's do a little bit up here. I just want to catch that edge down there. So be really conscious when you're doing this sort of thing, by the way. Your hands are touching the stencil and you're going to get paint on your fingers. The moment you stop doing this, wipe your fingers. Because if you don't, you're likely to pick up your piece of art and then suddenly realize you've left fingerprints all over it. So as you can see, my fingers are already covered in it. So just get yourself a damp cloth, have one on hand. Am I liking that? I am liking that. I think down here needs a little bit of a something. I think I'd like that. Do I want that much? I must be careful because I know I've got other elements on here and I don't want so much that I obliterate everything. I do like painting with a sponge, I must admit. Now, this sponge is a free sponge because it came in packaging. When I've run out of this, my preference is I go to my pound store or dollar store, whatever store you've got near you, and I normally go to the pharmacy aisle where they sell baby sponges, you know, the little round sponges to wash a baby, literally. For me, they usually come in a pack of 2 or 3, and they're usually £1, so they're really inexpensive. And then I cut them into cubes and I use them. I can wash these afterwards, and once I wash them afterwards, give them a squeeze, let them dry out. You can use them many, many times. I think I know it's 4 sets and I would normally do 3, but actually I might just do a little tiny bit here. If I just put those little pieces in there, that looks like it's a gap waiting for something. There you go. Right, I'm going to go on to the book cover now. So, as you might be able to see, whereas the thinner fluidity paint came through, the heavier one, very little has come through. So, as I said, just something to be aware of. Right. I quite like this to be down here. Now, I don't intend doing this journal or this journal cover on a video. Just know that it is me just utilizing my time and having the paints out and doing it. Now, I mean, I might share it in a photograph when it's done, but there's no need for you to see me building an absolutely basic journal when there's already journal makes in my playlist. I've got a piece across there because I quite like that broken up. And also just got a bit of gold left. Just get some of that in there. I'll be quite happy. And so that would be the front. This is the back of the cover. Let's just put a bit of that down there, or as far as this gold will stretch. Right. There you go. That's coming together nicely. So, right, that sponge can go in my bowl of water. Give this a bit of a wipe. Obviously, this is my painty mat. This is the one that always gets loads. You can always tell I'm in for a messy session if I'm actually using this mat. Right, now the last element on here that I want to use are these little tiny grids. I'm not going to use the curved lines in here because I've already got the curves of the nested circles, which this was a foam stamp. There's more than one size. That's the biggest size and it goes smaller. You will see if you watch part 1 of the laundry detergent pod recycling video. I can't remember what it's called. I'm sorry, guys. I'm struggling with my own product names. Right, I'm going to use the dark plum. And I'm not going to use a lot of it because I don't need to use a lot of it. Now, I could, in effect, have used one of my previous sponges and just turned it round and used the other end. But I'm conscious if I did that, then I'm putting more paint onto my fingers. And I don't necessarily want to do that. Right. Now, I'm going to come in. Now, this is where I make a decision. Do I want them on angles or line them up? You know me. I like things in horizontal and verticals. However, there's a reason for this, that I want these horizontal and vertical, is because I might draw lines coming out from between the squares. And if I do that, it will just accent the fact that they're not lined up with the edge. If I intentionally want them on an angle, I will do them on an angle. But for this project, I would prefer they weren't on an angle. Let's come into this corner because that will fit quite neatly into there. And I don't mind if it goes across a leaf. That's just layering in my mind. There's layering in most people's minds, actually. Right, I do quite like that. Now I've had that way, so I need to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to come in here, pull it down a bit, I think. Hopefully I'm still in shot. I'm barely in shot, but hopefully I've not gone too far over to one side. That's in there. I think I'd like a little bit down here. Just a little tiny bit, maybe just an edge. Just the 2 rows. There you go. That's added interest. This makes me feel I want to put something up there, but I don't just yet. I mean, I'm still undecided about whether I'm putting white on here as well, so I need to think about that as I'm going along. I mean, I did pull the white out to use, but I'm not 100% certain whether it's going to be used. I can go in there. I'd quite like to put this way, and then it will go across the spine when this becomes a journal. I also need to remember I'm likely to book corners onto this journal cover, so I don't necessarily need to go all the way to the edges. Okay, I'm liking that. I'm wondering whether I want something up there. Maybe just a little bit of a design across the top. And also I've got a little bit of paint left, so why not? Right, I think that's going to be called done now, because I've got to remember that that's what will be seen in the front and that will be back, or that will be the front and that will be the back. I think this one's going to one side. You're probably not going to see this again, guys. Okay, just be aware of that one. So we now have this. Now I did say I wanted to put white into this, but I think I've just changed my mind because I've got two more things I want to do and they're not using the stencil. So I just want to pull this tape off before it decides that it has to adhere to this. Now I could come in and use a sponge to work all of this paint on the stencil through onto a bit of scrap paper. I'm not going to do that because that will take time. I don't want to do that and waste the time when I'm trying to make a video. So I'm trying to get 2 videos done today, so I need to work with my time wisely. So I don't mind if this, even if this dries on this stencil, because there's no really small areas that the paint's going to block up. Right, so this is what we're working with. Right, I'm going to put my ceramic tile on the floor behind me, and let's just pray I don't tread on it, because that'd be really interesting, because I've only got a few more minutes of stuff to do, then I'm going to need to let this dry. So next I'm going to bring in is I've got my little 5x7 plate. I really do need to condition this plate. It needs a good clean and a good condition. And what I've done is I've pulled out 2 of my foam stamps. Now, I want to say this is from a collection called Flower Meadow. And I want to say there's something like 9 foam stamps in this collection. And I just wanted to add, actually, that's where I could put white. Okay, that would be a good idea, maybe to put white flowers on here. That would really freshen it up. Anyway, so I'm going to use these, and my method for doing this, I'm obviously going to be using white now, is I just squeeze a bit of the paint out. As I said, we're really, really close to this one being done. I'm going to brayer it out just so I can use this almost as an ink pad. And I'm going to come in, tap it up and down. I don't have to have absolutely perfect. Remember, these are being doodled on. And it will work best if you're putting in areas where it has something behind it to contrast it. This is going to look really pretty. Even before I've doodled it, I'm liking it. Let's just hope I don't ruin it by doodling it. Quite like, oh, actually that's too close to that one. If I'm gonna, that one. Sorry, brain working overload here. Right, do I like that? I think this needs a white one over here as well somewhere. So now what I do with this is I've got a damp cloth here. I'm going to sit this on the damp cloth, and then what will happen is the damp cloth will actually keep it moist so that while I'm working, I'm not wasting, I'm not letting it dry out. Now I'm going to have to clean this up. I'm now going to use that pink one that I had, and it's sort of a shimmery pink. And what it is this is one of those mix bottles, as I said, and I think what it was actually a pearlized pink, and then what I did is I came in and I added some darker red to it. So it's given me this really nice metallic colour. So I couldn't replicate this colour again if you asked me to. So I'm just gonna pick up the flower. I'm gonna tap it down and lift it up. Now I'm putting them in areas where there's something in the background, and I'm also putting them in areas where it's plain, because if I drew around that, I probably wouldn't see it. But if I draw around that, I will see it. So I am being a little careful as to where I'm putting stuff. Or I've just double flowered. I wonder whether I can just lift that off. I should be able to. I mean, the thing is, it was dry underneath, so I don't really want that one there. I'll just put one bit further out. There you go. Now, I happen to like things in groups of threes, as you may already know, and I'm not alone in that, so I think that's probably okay. I think that's how I've got to remember that there's going to be black lines or green lines, or there's going to be lines on this again. So I think we'll go call that done. Right. I am going to now stop this camera. I'm going to utilize any of the paints that are left onto spare projects. These need to dry, and I'm going to have a complete cleanup, and when I come back it will be a different surface. So I'll see you in 2 seconds for you, and it'll be a few minutes for me. Actually, it'll probably be tomorrow for me, to be honest. So see you when I get back. So here we go. It's all nice and dry. I did do something off screen because I forgot to do it on screen. In the middle of here I put a little tiny dot of yellow in the middle of all of the flowers. I just used, it was a little tiny hole that was actually in the original design of the stencil. So yeah, I went in and put that in because I completely forgot to do it. I was so distracted. So I'm going to be working with Posca pens. Now I don't have a huge amount of Posca pens. As you can see, I've got black, white, silver and gold, and that's it. Although I do think I'm going to go to my local, there's the silver one, going to go to my local Hobbycraft next week. And I think I'm going to buy, I've seen they do a set of Posca pens in darker shades, and if they've got that in stock, I think I'm going to treat myself to that. Anyway, let's get started. Fingers crossed I don't mess this up. I shouldn't mess this up. I think it's going to be okay. So I'm going to start with my lightest one. I've got a bit of paper here just so I can test the pens out. So this is black. It's a PC 3mm. Yeah, it's all loaded. So what I want to do first of all is I want to put the stems and the leaves on here. Now, when it comes to editing this video, I think what I'm going to do is, if it's a repetitive process, I will endeavour to edit it out, because like when I'm doing these leaves, I'm going to do one for you, but to be honest with you, you don't need to see me do 6 sets of leaves when it's the same thing repeated over and over again. So just be aware that I'm going to try and make it a little bit easier on the viewing eye by not showing you hours and hours of repeated processes. Right, is that all of them? That's all of them. Yeah, I think if I had darker colours, I wouldn't always rely on the black ones. Right, I'm going to do this leaf here, And then I'm going to pause you and then I'm going to go do the rest of the leaves. And that's sort of going to be the process I'm going to do for all of these. So I'm using the pen and I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to outline the leaf shape and make them more leaf shape, because when I designed the stencil, they were less pointed, should I say. Now, this bit here where the line went squiffy on the other side, I don't mind. I'm just going to leave that be. Right, put the lid back on here, and then I'm going to come in, and I've got some Uniball markers here. Where is it? Uniball fine liner, and this is an 8, I thought, or 0.8. All of the pens I'm using that are fine liners are waterproof or permanent, I believe. This is permanent. Water and fade proof pigment ink. These, however, if you put a liquid over the top, it tends to sometimes reactivate them. So I'm a little cautious of that, but I'll show you how I seal them all at the end anyway. So I'm going to just use the fine liner just to put a bit of a line in the middle, just to vary the width of the line involved. So pull it up closer. So that's all I've done there. So I'm now going to do that with all of the green leaves, and I'll be back in 2 seconds. So that didn't take long. As you can see, I've just gone around doing exactly the same thing, just brought those to life. I do like the fact there's some green in the background of those. Right, what do I want to do next? The gold. Now, I was debating, I don't want to outline the gold. I'm talking about this pattern here. I don't want to outline the gold in black. I wonder, well, what colour is this? This is white. I could outline them in white. Where's that silver gone? I could have sworn I had silver here somewhere. I'm wondering whether silver would be an option. I think I've only got silver in the big... Oh, that's a bit tough. So I'm not sure the silver is actually going to be any better. This is why I struggle, because I wish I had more colours. Oh, that's actually a blending tool. Oh, that's in there. Maybe I should do them in thin black. I mean thin white. I think I'm going to do them in white. Right, make sure I've got ink in the pen. It's hard to see whether it's coming out. It is coming out. Right, let's just do a couple of these. Now, remember, my goal is not to be perfect. I think that will work. I think I'm okay with that. So I'm also trying not to speed up drawing, because I think that's what happened the first time I doodled in a video. Besides getting overwhelmed by it, I kind of panicked that it was taking too long for me to do. And then I rushed, and then I wasn't happy with the lines I drew. And as you can tell, I've got a little more confidence in it now. And I think once you've done something once, you've gone past the fear of the unknown. And all of your lovely comments about the way my first attempt worked out, you were all very complimentary. And thank you so much for that, because that really did help me. Right. So there you go. I think that'll do. I think, because I think black would just have been too much. Now, if I'd have had more colours, I would have outlined that in maybe a deep burgundy, or I might even have gone for a yellow or a red or an orange, or even a brown. So that's why I think I want to go and buy some more Poscas, because I'm obviously going to be doodling in the future as well. Right, again, I'm going to pause you, and I'm going to do all of the gold bits. So there you go, that's all of the gold bits. So now I know it's really subtle, but actually what it's done is it's really pulled those into the foreground. That white line where it crosses over the black nested circles really brings it to the fore, and I'm liking that. Now next is going to be a bit time consuming, but I now need to do the flowers. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the small 0.8, because if I do the big one, it's it'll overpower them. And I think I'm just going to go around one of each. Actually, I'll do these two here because you'll be able to see them close together. I'm going to go around each of them, this one and this one, and then I'll stop the video again because this is going to be time consuming. Now, I am really trying to embrace drawing circles. I am still not the greatest at it, but as with anything, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So I was tempted to reach for a circle stencil and always do it that way, and I thought, you know what, no, I don't want to say it's cheating because there are no rules to break, but I didn't want to do that. I decided against it. See, so I'm going to go around and I'm going to do that with all of the flowers on here. It's probably going to take me a little bit of a time, to be honest with you, but we will do our best, people. Back in 2 seconds. So here you go, all of the flowers are done. Now, I'm sure I mentioned it before, but it's always worth mentioning again. If you're using any sort of markers on an acrylic or a painted surface, it is best to leave the painted surface completely dry. I usually leave mine overnight before you try and use a pen. Now, some of the pens will write, like I think Posca will continue to write because it's a paint-based pen. Some of these, however, if you use them on slightly damp paint, sometimes they stop working and you can't rescue them. I've tried using isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol on the end of the tip to try and make it work again, but basically you've ruined your pen. Especially if it's like a ball marker, one that's got a ball that rotates in the end to mark with. I found those clog up as well, so best to just let it dry. Okay, we're getting there. Right, I think I want to come in now with this, and I've got these areas here, and I think what I want to do is I want to select areas of them. I'm using the 3mm black again, and I want to put some lines through them, but not necessarily through the whole thing. So just going to draw lines through sections, and then I'm going to come in the other direction and again put some random lines in, not trying to make a grid. So I think that it would be too much, I think. But you see what I mean? I'm just going to do that, and I think I'm going to do that with you here on screen because, to be honest with you, it's not going to be that long of a process because there's not a lot of them. So there's one up there. Can you see? You can see. Yeah, I thought that if I put an entire grid in, it would just overpower everything. Whereas I felt just okay with putting bits in here. There you go, and that's them done. See, everything is just adding a layer. I'm a great lover of using a black pen. Black is the key to making every other colour go poof. I just like the drama of it. Okay, there's a couple of things I want to do next. And yes, I do it now, I think. Right, where's my big gold marker? Right, this is the gold, and this is a 5mm. You can tell it's cold here. Right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my pen vertical because it's likely to give me more of a dot. If I come in from an angle, it'll give me more of an oval. So I want to hold my pen vertically. Get off my finger. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to put a dot in the middle of each of these squares. And what this will do for me is to carry the theme of the center of the flowers through. Now, I'm not going to put a dot in all of them because there are some that are crossed over by other designs, but I am going to come in, if it's a whole square, Let's put it that way. And I'm ignoring the circles in the background, these nested circles, because to be honest with you, they are very much becoming a layer beneath now. So if something goes over the top, I can ignore it. Let's do this one next, because if I do this one, I'll put my arm in it for that one. These pens do take a few minutes to dry totally, so I'm always a little bit aware of where I'm putting my arm. And when you see me do the next part of the design, I will actually use a piece of paper to lay down so I don't smear my hand through stuff, because there's only one more stage to go and I think we're done. You're still in shot. There you go. That just adds a little bit of life to those as well. As I said, we're almost there. Right, I need to, is this going to dry quick enough? I think actually I'm going to stop for a few minutes because I need this to totally dry, because the next bit I'm going to be laying my hand on it and I would hate to smear any of those dots. I think I'm just going to pull the hairdryer out and give them a really quick blast with the hairdryer, and then I know they're dry. So back in two, guys. So here I'm back again. They're dry now. Now I just use my hairdryer. It's a travel hairdryer. I just keep purely for craft, because obviously I've got no hair. Why would I need a hairdryer? And what I did is I used it on the low setting, the low power, because if you think this here is a little dot of liquid, if I put them on high power, I could have splattered them or moved them around, which is why I just use a low power just to do what I needed to do. Right, now at this point I kind of want to think, is there an up and is there a down? I'm sort of erring to fact that, yes, I think this is going to be my orientation. Not that it means a lot to anyone else except me, but I'm going to use this as orientation. So I'm going to get a bit of, I call this kitchen paper. Some people call this kitchen towel. And that's purely to protect this from my hand. And there is another reason, it's got a straight line on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on an angle, because that's the way, I'm a predominantly right-handed person. I'm actually ambidextrous, but I do use my right hand all the time. I'm going to come in with my black marker and I'm going to do what I call nonsense writing. And I'm just going to use this bottom line as my guide, and I'm just going to do nonsense lines. So they look as if they're writing, but obviously they're completely not. I'm going to do that in a couple of places. I like this effect. I use this quite often on things. And I think as you get more confident with stuff, doing stuff like this just makes it uniquely yours. So, and I think I want a little bit down here, I think. It doesn't always have to be 3 lines of anything. It can be less than 3. Actually, I'm going to do 3 there because it just looks more balanced for this space. So that's just added a little something on there, and I think I'm going to call that done. It's a very big temptation when you start doodling, or so I have found. You can just keep adding and adding and adding, and there's some great stuff out there done on doodling. I mean, as I said, look at Darcy's Misadventures of Mixed Media, look at Gail Augustinelli, and that's just to name 2, and they use doodling a lot, and so do many other people, and I'm so bad at remembering who to refer to when it comes to doodling, because I assume everyone does it except me. I'm happy with that. Now, I have a slight confession to make. I wasn't going to show you the other piece we did at the beginning of the video, but this morning when I got up and I'd had breakfast, the daylight wasn't yet light enough because it was about 6:30 this morning, so it's still dark out there. I pulled it in, and yes, I actually went ahead and doodled it. So there you go. That's the other one I did. Same techniques without the flowers, of course, but this will now become a journal cover. I mean, I'm going to line it with something because obviously I don't want that shown, but that's going to become a journal cover. I'm happy with that. And all using pretty much the same techniques. Now, something I would advise, depending on what you're going to do these for, right? This is a journal cover. It's going to see handling. It's going to be put in and out of a bag or on and off a shelf. If this gets wet, there's a fine chance that this sort of Posca stuff is going to move or smear. Now, your instinct would be to reach for this and brush it on. Just a mere action of brushing this on is probably going to move the Posca pens. So the other thing you can do if you've got a gel plate, you could roll a layer of this out on your gel plate, press this down, leave it, lift it, and then it will have coated it. However, the fastest thing I'd use is I use a fixative. It's an art fixative. It's for drawing, it's for pastels, it's for dusts, it's for crayons, it's for charcoals. And a tin of this lasts me a really long time. And all I do is I give it a couple of sprays. I usually spray it in one direction, then the other, then the other. I spray it in 4 different directions so that if there's any texture on here, it's captured, and then let it fully dry. And then at this point, if I really wanted to, I could then use this, or I could use Mod Podge over the top, but that seals everything in, and I found that works for me. Okay, just so you're aware. So I think we're done, guys. I'm happy with that. That was a lot less stressful than the very first time I doodled. Now I think next time I come in and do some doodling, we might be doing it on maybe watercolor. I've got this idea that I want to utilize some watercolor, and then in the future I'm going to actually do some border strips and trims as well, because I now have a set of border stamps out there with PM Artist Studio, and I'd like to stamp and then enhance those just to build up a bit of a collection, to be honest. So now we're going to end this video in a slightly odd way for me, because at this point I normally pull in my logo and I go, it's bye from me. I'm Ceri the Crafter, C-E-R-I the Crafter. Can't do that because I've no longer got the logo. And the answer to the reason why will become apparent in the next video. Once this video launches, probably about 2 or 3 days later, you're going to see another video in that it will all become very apparent as to what I did, why I did it, and how I did it. I'm sharing it all with you, no problems there. I'm hoping that the next time I do a doodle one, I'll actually have a collection of dark Posca markers, which will give me more variety, because I'd like to have added red into this one, or maybe a bit more dark orange into this, or terracotta. So anyway, I'm waffling on. Anyway, so I'm Ceri the Crafter, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter. Until next time, goodbye now.